Now this is the mTuitive authoring environment, which is showing you a view of the breast pathology report from mTuitive's Cancer Protocols product. And this is the authoring tools view of what you just saw in the expert client. And as you can see, there are a lot of different controls and buttons here because this is where you actually edit the checklist, not where you use it. And the best way to show you how we built some of these features is to actually go ahead and import a brand new one. So let me create a brand new project. I'm just going to call it Demo. Oops, looks like I already have one. I'm going to call it Demo 2. And you're going to see there's no smoke and mirrors. It's a completely blank report with nothing in it. Now I could just start here and create, if the knowledge is all in my head, I could just go ahead and type in the things that I want to do right here. That's fine. But what we try to do is make it easy to bring in the knowledge that you may already have in the form of Word documents, Excel documents, or other just basic documents. We find that a lot of organizations have already written down a procedure or a protocol or a form somewhere. It's just that it's not really in an application format. So we try to make it really much easier to get started by letting you bring in your existing documents. So we're going to go ahead and use the import wizard. And we're going to just overwrite this current blank report. We didn't do anything too important. And what I'm going to do is browse to a checklist that came from the College of American Pathologists. And with the only changes we've made to this document are to strip out some of the characters like underscores and asterisks and things that didn't translate well into an interactive world, things that were really meant for paper. I have a file here called breast.txt. We're going to import the breast protocol, the same one you saw us demo in the expert client, if you saw that demo. And I can actually add information to the checklist here. This is just a text editor. Some people like to bring data in this way anyway, even if they don't have an existing document. So now I can just click import. There are various options for how to import different kinds of files, but I won't bore you with those. On the right-hand side now you can see a preview of what it's going to look like in the mTuitive world, and it looks good to me, so I'm going to say done. And now you'll see we have a completely plain vanilla version of that breast protocol. There's absolutely no logic applied to it yet. Every section has a white triangle, which means that it's a navigational or structural header. So usually when we build an mTuitive expert application, there are a few steps. The first step is to define what kind of data you can enter where, and that's a very simple process. You can usually be done in less than an hour with that. And once you've done that, you've got all the basics you need to collect data and to validate data. On top of that, then, we'd like to add the more fun and interesting stuff, like adding reference material in a contextual fashion, or dynamically searching websites, or conditional branching, or other dynamic alerts and other dynamic behaviors. But step one is always to define who can enter what where. So let's say patient name is going to be very simple. It's a basic text alphanumeric kind of field. So I'm just going to click free text section. You'll see the bottom now gives me options for different formats. I'm just going to leave this one as basic. And if I actually click required, it'll make that a red circle, which means now the application is going to validate that the user enters something into this required field. And I'll do the same thing for surgical path number. Now, gender is a little different. It's actually a list with two choices. So I'm going to convert that using a little shortcut button into a pick list. And you'll notice when I'm done that male and female are the pick list choices for this section. I'm going to do that same thing for specimen type. Notice I left gender as optional. So that can either be required or optional, and it's all we have to do is check a box, and the system will validate it for us. Specimen type has 4 choices, and let's say that we could allow the user to enter multiple choices on specimen type. We check the Allow Multiple Selections box. But you can then introduce a contradiction. Someone could enter excision and not specified, and that wouldn't make any sense. So what we do here is let you declare that not specified should deselect all the other items. And again, there's an other. What do we do with other? We actually want to let the user write in their own answer. Sometimes it's difficult to do when you're working with forced choice or multiple choice types of situations. But with us, it's easy. We just let you click free entry, and even within that list, you can now specify the free text formats for what can be written in, although normally we'll just leave that on general. We can also specify that something should be a default selection and some other stuff, but it's all very declarative. We're just trying to let you define what should happen, not how it should happen. You just declare how the application should function, and you don't have to go back and forth with the programmer, many times to get it just right. Even the more complicated stuff, you just kind of declare it, and the system takes care of the rest and generates all the rules and intelligence behind the scenes. So I'm just going to save what I've done so far. And at this point, I could go through the rest of the report, but you probably understand now that we basically are going to create a bunch of pick lists and places to enter free text. We can also create places to enter attachments and annotate images. I'll show you one real quick. Let's just say attached images, and I would make that an attachment section. And in that case, I can set all kinds of, I can preload attachments for the user to look at, and they can edit it in the editor of their choice. I can do a bunch of different things. I'm just going to say here, we need these to be a certain kind of file type, JPEG, GIF, or whatever. And I'm going to say OK. But that would let the user, at runtime when they fill out the form, attach images of the types that I specified. Now, moving on, we can maybe do some more interesting stuff now, like create some rules. Now, let's say for specimen size, greatest dimension is a number, and the user has to either enter that number or they have to say that they can't determine it. So what we want to do is create a very simple conditional branch that turns that off when they can't determine it. So I'm going to go to specimen size, and I'm going to use our transform children to a pick list wizard, and I'm going to actually specify not to bring 2 items into the list. I only want to bring 1 item in, the cannot be determined item. Now I have a pick list with 1 item. If they pick that, then they no longer have to enter the greatest dimension. How do we do that? We go to greatest dimension field, and we choose to create an availability rule. Okay, and this is a rule that determines when the section is available. Now, to make it sensitive to that particular choice of cannot be determined, I just hold down the control key and go over and browse for that. I find cannot be determined, drag it into the Boolean editor here and let go. And now you'll see that we've created a rule that says make this available when the specimen size equals cannot be determined. It's actually the opposite of that we want, so we check not. Make it available when that's not true. And what you just saw me do is create a rule with mTuitive's Boolean conditions editor. And that's really, this conditions editor, once you learn how to use it, you have access to virtually all the dynamic behaviors in the application, including real-time alerts, conditional branching, making something required or not on the fly, and a lot of logical function type of functionality like creating choices to do things like tumor staging. Almost all of that is defined with this similar user interface. So it's very easy to learn, very easy to use, and it can be as expressive as you need to in terms of logic. And once you learn it, you can do just about anything that the application lets you do. If we needed to create a more complex rule, we could do that. I'll show you some finished examples when I'm done. So beyond that, we could also go ahead and do, like I said, there would be alerts, and we could create an alert that did something like, usually you're going to be letting someone know that they did something wrong or that there's some potentially dangerous situation. So let's just say, alert, this is a bad set of data or something. Obviously, you're going to say something really specific usually. And let's say that we want to throw that up if the gender is male and the specimen type is something specific. So if the gender is male, we drag that in. And if the specimen type is a mastectomy, then we want to let somebody know that, that occurs. There's nothing really wrong with this situation, but it's just simply a way of showing you how we can create that. A couple other things we'd like to show off are the ability to add contextual help. So to do that, I'm going to go to my web browser real quick. Probably can't see it on your screen right now. And let's probably not show my calendar. Let's go to the Google homepage. And imagine that we want to actually create a link to the Google homepage right when the user's at the greatest dimension field. What we would do is simply go to our browser, and this could be an internal intranet, something on the web, anywhere that there's knowledge that you want to link directly into the process for the user. Simply drag the icon out of the browser into mTuitive. It's going to find the title of the web page and the URL, and to associate it with specific points in the decision support process, I just go to the section, greatest dimension, and check hint and or info if I want them to appear in either of those tabs. And you just simply build up a library of choices, and I'll show you the finished version of the breast demo with over 50 references when we're done. And lastly, I guess, a lot of times there's a need to associate data with control vocabularies or coding systems for billing purposes, for compliance reporting, some more advanced artificial intelligence for lots of reasons, integration. So we let you create as many as you want of aliases or properties of data. So let's say we want to, we probably showed you SNOMED in our expert client demo, but there's nothing magical about medical terminologies or SNOMED. So just to prove that, I'll create an auto part number property. And now every place in the report is allowed to have an auto part number. For example, specimen type. Both the field itself could have an auto part number of 1, 2, 3, and each choice therein could have its own auto part number. And for those of you familiar with coding and control vocabulary, you probably understand right away that this means that the data would be coded up front and wouldn't require any sort of abstraction later, which is really a big thing. Let me go ahead and save what we've done so far, and I'd like to actually preview it by opening it up in the expert client. Let me just get that just right on the screen, and then I'll show it. And what you see now is the partially finished report that we've just been working on. Patient name is here. We're going to go ahead and type John Doe and hit next. Surgical path number, you just type whatever. And you'll see here's the gender field we added that wasn't in the demo. Okay, let's make it male. Specimen type is, let's say, mastectomy. Oh, look, there's the alert we made. Okay. Very simple to create dynamic behavior. Attached images. Go ahead. We could actually, go on our computer and browse and find one. See if I probably have something pretty silly here, but picture of the family. There we go. And if we go down to greatest dimension and I say cannot be determined, you'll see it turned off the greatest dimension. If I turn it back on, oops. If I turn it back on, I accidentally closed the application. Sorry, I think I clicked the wrong button there. But I think everybody got the point that what we created we were able to see right away. It was very easy to create advanced functionality, and just about anything that you've seen us do with our product you can access via the authoring tool and create those powerful behaviors yourself. Does anyone